Got one idea that I'm especially psyched out of my mind about. You know, it's one of those ideas where you're just like, yes!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Dave Flynn?
On the radio.
Hold on to your butts.
Hey there, welcome to Dave Flynn on the radio, the #1 blogcast on the internet. I'm Dave Flynn, and since reading is hard, I'm going to do it for you. Do you consider yourself to be competitive? Like, really competitive? What if everything you've been taught about competition is backwards? Most of us chase wins, and some of us even dread those losses. So we treat every matchup like a zero-sum game, a war. But is that competition? What if the real power of competition isn't beating the other person? It's something more generous. Something that turns rivals into perfect partners for unlocking potential, yours and theirs. I stumbled on it way too late through Timothy Galway's classic The Inner Game of Tennis and James Carse's Finite and Infinite Games. They completely reframed how I show up. And man alive, I wish I'd understood this when I was younger. So I try to express it to my kids and to the baseball team, but it's tough. It's also totally worth it. You can find more stories and essays like this over at winwithflynn.com, but if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's jump into the show. Winning and the wave. At the 2003 U.S. Open on center court, Pete Sampras emerged wearing a dark suit, open collar, surrounded by legends. He is retiring, and before he says a word, he's overcome. He can't get through it. Then, Andre Agassi appears on the screen, pre-recorded, because Andre is still playing, still competing, warming up for a match. He says, quote, "Beyond any shadow of a doubt, Pete is the best I ever played. It's been my privilege to be challenged by him," unquote. This was a mature Agassi, not the brash rebel from the 1990s. Agassi later reflected, quote, "Losing to Pete has caused me enormous pain. But in the long run, it's also made me more resilient. If I'd beaten Pete more often, or if he'd come along in a different generation, I'd have a better record, and I might go down as a better player, but I'd be less. Did Grandpa just make up a word at Scrabble? Ask him about it and he'll tell you he's competitive, but he's not. He just likes to win. There's a difference, and most people have the words backwards. Winning is an outcome. Competition is a choice to push and be pushed to your limit. Step on the field and a winner is guaranteed. Competition is not. Now, imagine Shaq shows up in your driveway for a game of one-on-one. What happens? He wins, no doubt. Even the old-ass Shaq we know today from the Papa John's commercials. But how does he feel about the win? It's nothing. Why? Because, no offense, it's against you. There's no competition. Quote, "The surfer waits for the big wave because he values the challenge it presents," Timothy Gallway writes in The Inner Game of Tennis. He values the obstacles the wave puts between him and his goal of riding the wave to the beach. Why? Because it is those very obstacles, the size and churning power of the wave, which draw from the surfer his greatest effort. It is only against the big waves that he is required to use all his skill, all his courage and concentration to overcome. Only then can he realize the true limits of his capacities. At that point, he often attains his peak. Unquote. Hot damn, that's a good one. The more difficult the obstacle, the greater the opportunity. A decade after Mike Agassi was sending young Andre to hustle adults at Vegas hotels, Richard Williams pulled Venus Williams from junior tennis. She was 11, ranked number 1 in Southern California, undefeated at 63-0. He pulled her out anyways because he understood the difference. Andre had been raised inside this confusion, taught from the start that tennis was for outcomes. Tennis was for the win. But you can't beat the wave because the wave doesn't lose. You can ride it, and riding it is everything. But it'll be back. It's not a finite thing. There will be no retirement ceremony. The best rivalries work the same way. Laird Hamilton, he's not happy riding little baby waves out in the bay. It's too damn easy. There's no competition. No need to push himself or raise his game. Instead, he chases waves that might break him, and sometimes they do. Is the surfer trying to prove something to somebody? Are they trying to win the brass buckle? Not at all. The surfer is exploring themselves. They're learning about their limits, their capacity. They are increasing their self-knowledge. In the classic film Days of Thunder, we are introduced to Cole Trickle and Rowdy Burns, two dudes that love to race in everything, even in wheelchairs. The orderlies can't push them fast enough. Cole and Rowdy take over. The wheels squeak as they pick up the pace, eventually spilling out into the lobby. No prize, no crowd, no money. Both were in the hospital after a traumatic on-course collision. They want more than anything to be all right, to feel like they are all right. So they race. That's their language. And the more they race, the more they understand each other, the more they come to admire each other. They're becoming more than they were because of each other. Agassi versus Sampras, Lakers versus Celtics, Trickle versus Burns. Together, they become more. The wave doesn't lose. You ride it, and it'll be back. Bigger, maybe, and so will you. Every time Sampras and Agassi met across the net, both of them had changed, forced to dig deeper, find new shots, become versions of themselves that wouldn't have existed without the other. The wave got bigger because the surfer got better. Pete got better because Andre did. The clock runs out, the match ends, and the competition, it's still there, waiting, just like the ocean. Winning or losing has nothing to do with that relationship. You can't beat the wave. You can't retire Pete Sampras. Agassi sure couldn't. What you can do is keep showing up, keep growing, and hope the thing across from you keeps growing too. That's the virtuous cycle. Not you getting the better of them, but both of you getting better because of each other. You can see any game for what it is, an opportunity to find your limits. And by doing so, you might help the other team find theirs. What you really want, if you truly want to compete, is an opponent that pushes as hard as you do. But more often, we see athletes pucker up, clinch, press, and crumble under the weight of competition. Not because the wave was too big, but because they were tied up in the outcome to the extent they could no longer embrace the competition. I've seen it both ways. I coached a youth baseball team that went undefeated the first third of the season. Easy wins. Then we finally faced a team that wouldn't quit. Back and forth, neither side giving an inch. They walked us off in the sixth. After the game, the kids were devastated, some crying, and I'd never been happier. I said, that was the first time all season we had to compete. I was giddy. They thought I was nuts. But a few months later in the playoffs, down 8 runs in the title game, they didn't panic. Okay, A few of them started crying, but mostly they held it together. On the mound in the third inning, my son loaded the bases and worked his way out of it. Strikeout, pop up, grounder to first. Competing. Our ace came in. He was working fast, eager to get back on the rubber after every pitch. The final out came on an easy pop fly back to the mound. Arms raised, the team met on the third baseline for hugs and high fives. They did it. They learned to welcome competition instead of fearing it. Is winning fun? Hell yeah, it's fun. But even little kids like winning. At some point, you grow through that. And while you'd still like to come out on top, the bigger piece, the more satisfying piece, is, did you reach your potential? You need opponents who will give you everything they have, so both sides change and grow in lockstep. Back and forth, competing, changing, growing, until you have the best game of your life. And guess what? You might lose that game. Winning is not the metric. Anyone can win. People get lucky and win. People cheat and win. Competition is finding your limits, pushing past them, and becoming something you weren't before. That doesn't show up on the scoreboard. 8 years before that retirement ceremony, Agassi was world number 1. Pete took it from him on that very court in the U.S. Open final, and then kept taking it. Sampras won his 14th Grand Slam at the previous year's Open, defeating Agassi again in the final. It took Andre 2 decades to understand what it was all about. 2 decades playing a game he didn't love, and for much of it, a game he didn't even like. Why did he continue? Why did he persist? It wasn't the winning. He needed tennis, and he needed Pete. Without Pete, he'd be less of a champion, less of a competitor, less of a person. If he'd come along in a different generation, he'd have more titles, more time at number 1, a better record, but he said it himself, he'd be less. That's the whole thing right there. If you do it right, you walk off grateful, heartbroken, and changed. Pete was his wave, and without the wave, he'd be less. There we have it. That's the pod. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, please share it with a friend. Give it a thumbs up. And if you've got a few extra seconds, give it a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you are listening. The engagement will make you feel so good, and it'll help other people find the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
All right, there you go, America. I love you. I'm proud of you. I mean it.
We gotta go.
We gotta go. This is